the men you want out there castrating the rapists, the men you cling to when the wolves are at the door, they're never the white knight modern male feminists who travel in packs like the wolves. Those men are cowards. They don't respect women. They're just looking for an in. And I saw this at the Change My Mind with the guys walking in going, oh, I think that this made my friend cry. You're just trying to get laid, man.
Mug clubs for closers.
You know, here's the thing I wanted to talk about, because I definitely do think that this, we always talk about how sort of toxic politics has become and how angry people are. And I want to bring it back to the fact there's nothing wrong with anger. There's nothing wrong with righteous anger. And I certainly think that being falsely labeled a rapist would qualify. But let me take a step back. When you were a kid, you didn't look up to your dad because he was sweet or because he had nice clothes. Your dad was worth the salt because he felt safe, if you had a good dad. Or even more so, I would say that, certainly like with my dad, it's because he made everyone around him feel safer. So this is actually something I'd like to talk about with both the deadbeat men out there and the women who tolerate deadbeat men. First, to all the feminists who bitch about toxic masculinity and rape culture, and that's what they're shrieking about today, let me make this really simple. What should you look for in a man? An honest man with a backbone. That's it. You want a man who you're going to reach for when the wolves are at the door. And to the men, we've talked about this a lot, the incels, right? The involuntary celibates, the professionally outraged over alimony and child support payment crowd. Sorry, I'm not on board with you. I understand equality. I understand people being upset with feminists and how far they've reached, but this men's rights crowd that sometimes just goes too far the other way, you know what? You need to learn to be the person that your woman's going to want when wolves are at the door. Now, why is that symbolism so important? We've used this term a lot, wolves at the door. You hear that a lot, right? Why wolves at the door? A few things. One, it's not mean people at the door, meaning you're not one of them. There's a delineation. It's an animal. Two, it's not tigers at the door. It's not water moccasins. Those are really freaky, though. If you see the water snakes and they do with their head up, they terrify me. It's wolves. And wolves are pack animals. Very seldom are they dangerous by themselves, but in a pack, they become ruthless, emboldened killers. And that's what you have to protect yourself against. The pack of wolves can come in the form of a pitchfork mob, the trial by public opinion, the gossipers in your church, or the gaggle of so-called friends who betray you when you thought they wouldn't, peer pressure. Hell, it could actually be a gang of rapists. The pack of wolves could be a gang of rapists. But this whole rape witch hunt, it's a throwing away of due process right now. It's indicative of a society with both men and women who don't know what a man is supposed to be. And I know now the feminists are going, no, listen, this is just as much for women as it is for men. It is more important for society right now to know what a man needs to be. And that means not just for himself, but for his woman and for his family. Patriarchy? Okay, let's go with it. Because I know, as a Christian, I'm going to be the one standing before the Lord, accountable for my actions and my house. Maybe you don't believe in it, but okay, it proves to be the case pragmatically, even if you look at sentencing. Not all men are rapists. Let's start with that. But all good men hate rapists. All good men that I know would fight to their very last breath to prevent an innocent woman from being raped. Even hardened, do you have any idea who get hardened criminals in prison? This is the thing that's so crazy to me. If you're a rapist and you go to prison, ironically, you're getting raped, which we joke about and is fine. And I'm not saying that I'm upset about that because of the double standard. I think it's funny. But it's crazy to me that people act as though we do not tolerate rape. Every man I know hates rapists. Even bad criminals, armed robbers, arsonists hate rapists. But you know what? The men you want out there castrating the rapists, the men you cling to when the wolves are at the door, they're never the white knight modern male feminists who travel in packs like the wolves. Those men are cowards. They don't respect women. They're just looking for an in. And I saw this at the Change My Mind with the guys walking in going, oh, I think that this made my friend cry. You're just trying to get laid, man. You don't even have a point of view. You don't have any beliefs. How am I supposed to believe that you're going to stand up for anything? You don't even stand for anything yourself. You came up to this desk and you said, well, I'm really not prepared. Shut up and go home and learn to be prepared, because a man should be prepared. If you believe in anything, and this isn't some false machismo bullcrap, okay? I'm asking you, women, genuinely, what kind of a man do you want when the wolves are at the door? If you're at a party, you're uncomfortable with some douchebags around, they're drinking too much, you're feeling a little vulnerable, who do you want there with you? What kind of a man do you reach for? It doesn't have to be that extreme. Let's say your supposed best friend at work betrayed you, tossed your lot in with the rest of the gaggle in the office, and they got you to be fired from your job. Okay, I'm just trying to think of some example. It's not as extreme as rape, but rape is on the mind. Everything is rape these days. Lie, lie a whore, and you know it. That's what's on the brain. Sorry. But okay, let's just say you're in a situation, maybe many of you are in this right now. This is for the women out there. You have a friend, I hear this story a lot. I've had it happen to me. Betray you, you lost your job. You come home. What kind of a man do you want to reach for? Because that's what matters. And to the men out there, what kind of man are you? I understand that this trial's evoked a lot of emotions, right? But I've seen a lot of generalized negative talk about all women. I know how I sound when I say this, even though I think it's important to note that someone like Ford is an exception, not the rule. So instead of saying all women are crazy, women suck, what kind of a man are you? What kind of a woman are you going to attract? Will it be a Christy Ford? Can you say that you are the man? The woman who, if you had to pick, right? If you could pick the woman you love, are you the man in a room full of guys that she'd want by her side when the wolves are at the door? Because that comes with a track record. That comes with a track record. That's not a sit down and listen, you made my friend cry, but I'm not really prepared for this. That's a track record, a lifetime of honesty, integrity, discipline. No one just rolls the dice on the squad leader. And if you're not that man, you need to work on yourself. Because the kind of woman you want, she's not going to want you. So I do get a little bit tired where I see guys passing the buck going, oh no, I'm afraid to date anyone because look, women are crazy. No. Maybe you need to look at yourself too. Yeah, things can happen. You can be totally in the right and they can Brett Kavanaugh you. Allegedly. I think he probably did none of it. That's just my opinion at this point. But what about yourself? Are you the man that the woman you would want would choose? I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that it's easy to make these assumptions with the bombardment of news lately, that either all women are crazy or all men are scumbags. And I know that's not true. You know that's not true. But it's time to really start working on showing that. Women, you need to have higher expectations from your men, period, which is not something that feminism has taught. Feminism has let men off the hook, and men, you need to have higher expectations of yourself. Also, don't say you were raped if you weren't raped. Let me give you an example of someone, because to go back to anger, when people say anger's not a bad thing, there's righteous anger versus douchebaggery. Jesus knocked over the temple, would you call them tables back then? I don't know exactly. Basically, Jesus was pissed. Now, this is a parable. Let's just say you believe it's a parable. Let's just say, right, that you're not sure if Jesus, the man, actually existed. Okay, the parable still believes in a sinless man, a perfect man, who got really pissed and threw over tables, at least caused property damage. That's the guy you want when the wolves are at the door. Guy I have a lot of respect for, someone who works in this show, Johnny Boy. I've told the story before. I don't think I've ever told it on air. This is a true story. This is why he became my best friend in high school, and I'm fortunate enough to have him working on the show. I was talking with him, right? So you're me. And he's talking on the bus, this is the front of the bus, the camera for this is the back of the bus. He's talking with me. I'm between the camera and myself right now. I hope I've described this. And we were talking probably about Jaws or something. He was obsessed with Jaws. And there's a kid at the back of the bus throwing pennies. And they're hitting him in the back of it. And he's talking to me. He's getting a little bit annoyed. Tells me, hold on a second. I see him walk up to the back of the bus, this kid, I believe his name was Matt. He says, hey man, could you do me a favor? Could you stop throwing pennies? Guy says, yeah, what are you gonna do? I say, okay, could you stop throwing pennies, please? Walks back up to me, sits down in a chair. This is me, right? This is the front, you're the camera, you're the front of the bus. People listening on audio, you need to go watch this. This is a visual, okay? I'm creating a diagram, just like the score, where they have the tunneling. So, goes back talking to me about 30 seconds later. Ding, ding, more pennies hitting his head. At this point, my friend Johnny Boy stops, looks back, in other words, to signal, I already asked you about this, and the kid just looks at him, gives him one of these, I think gave him the finger. Nothing else was said. We continued talking, and the pennies kept going for about 2 minutes, until all of a sudden we hear, ding! The kid was getting off. It was his stop. By the way, they were in the same grade. There wasn't a size discrepancy. As the kid's about to walk off the bus, looking over, grinning, my friend Johnny Boy is talking. He goes, hey, hold on one second, stops me, stands up, looks at him, and hits him as hard as I've ever seen a human being get hit. And the guy stumbled off the bus. And about 30 seconds later, because the bus driver was going, it's correct. He was French-Canadian. He kind of came to. He goes, yeah, get off at my stop. Let's see what happens. Well, here's the funny thing. The next day, guess what? He has to get back on that bus. He did. Not a word was spoken. He didn't go out looking for a fight. He wasn't a bully. But there was nothing wrong there. That was righteous indignation. That was righteous anger. And guess what? He's a friend of mine. He's the guy I would reach for as a buddy when the wolves are at the door. And that's the kind of man you want to be to your woman, to your friends. And if you're a woman out there, that's the kind of man you want in your life. And ironically, when we see this all the time, even though I believe you're strong, independent women like my wife is, like Johnny Boy's wife is, like my mother is, the only ones who are so weak that they have to scream to be heard are the liberal feminists, are the people like the Fords of the world, are the people like we saw at the Change My Mind. I think so. I do think this is an important part of this conversation. It's easy to get pissed with rape and no rape, and she's crazy, and this person's a bitch, and this person's a jerk. I think it's important to take this opportunity to say, okay, what are the roles that we have in society as men and as women? And I think even more important is not just what roles do we have as men and as women, but what are you looking for in a man and a woman? And today we just talked about men. Maybe next week we'll talk about women, but I'll have to get a consultant. Hey, if you like this video, subscribe or click the notification bell right next to the subscription button, because subscribing doesn't mean anything anymore now, according to the YouTube gods. And if you like the late night show, you can watch it every single day, a full hour, at loudwithcreditor.com/mugclub. Subscribe there. That way, we aren't beholden to the evil YouTube overlords, and we don't have to start playing video games with mouth sound effects or children react.